Hey guys, welcome back to The Real Deal with Kat and Kev, your place for the latest in crypto and marijuana news. Guys, as I told you before, we do have a special guest. The subject of this segment is going to be focused on blockchain. You guys know how passionate I am about crypto and the blockchain technology and the potential possibilities of what it can do for people around the world. Blockchain technology looks to not only be the biggest industry disruptor of 2018, but potentially the biggest industry disruptor since the dot-com era. The implications and the possibilities of this technology is enormous. It can change almost every industry from healthcare, financial services, education, medical records. I mean, the list goes on. And I think that we're going to see a large attempt by many companies to try to implement the technology in daily use and practical use on a regular basis. And there's a lot of companies actually out there that are looking to help businesses find ways to utilize the blockchain technology. And that's why we have our guest today, Gil from UpToro, who actually works in helping businesses with this exact thing. How are you doing, Gil?
I'm doing very good. I'm thrilled to be here today. Thank you, Kevin.
Awesome, awesome. It's great to have you. Now, obviously, blockchain is relatively young. The infancy, I believe, Bitcoin started in, 2009. Blockchain
Correct.
has not been around for long. So there's not too many people that you can say have been doing this. Obviously, nobody's been doing this 20 plus years, but you've been doing this for 3 years now or so?
Yeah, about 3 years, and Bitcoin runs on blockchain technology, so pretty much the same technologies, the same methods are running in parallel since then, yes.
Awesome. What brought you into the technology?
Interesting, curious. I've been around the financial services, the technology space for over 20 years. And always I'm curious to learn about new technologies, new innovations. And I started to hear about Bitcoin and blockchain right around 3-4 years ago. I bought my first Bitcoin when it was, whatever it was back then.
Oh, wow.
And
Sorry, are you a millionaire yet?
no, I still need to work for myself. And I actually sold Bitcoin just before a couple of months ago.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, and I looked at fundamentals. I looked at what the technology can bring and what the enhancement and what are the innovation and, like you mentioned, what it can bring new to the world, to the technology space that can be utilized, not just waving hands or fluffing hot air.
Definitely. Obviously, when the technology was first introduced, a lot of people didn't know what to make of it. You know, was it a new monetary system that was going to replace fiat currency? Like, were you just inspired right away for what it could do for people?
I was inspired by that it's new. It's something that nobody really knew how to handle it, what it is, why it is, what it has to do. And as always, I truly believe that in order to learn something, you have to experience it. So I went and I set up an account, on one of the exchanges, and I bought Bitcoin, and I started to see, okay, what can be applied for. And since I have a background in technology, I started to see, okay, what is the underlying roads, things that are really utilized in order to make Bitcoin what it is. And this is where I was focused on, not really on Bitcoin and how you can get rich from Bitcoin, but really what it can deliver, the production, the product, what the essence it can bring, really very much so like the internet, how it helped in the broader scheme of things to us.
So how are you utilizing it now? What are you doing with the blockchain technology?
So right now, as you mentioned, rightfully so, there are several industries that blockchain can help. From financial technology, from payments to healthcare. One thing that I'm focused lately is the supply chain and food safety.
Wow.
This is where really blockchain but before we would talk about how blockchain can utilize, the number one thing that blockchain brings to us is bring trust when there is no trust.
Yes.
And as soon as you understand what it is, then you can start thinking what are the use case. And kind of, let's talk about supply chain and food safety.
Yes.
Yes, supply chain has been around. FedEx and UPS shipped, thousands of packages a day, so something's work. But as more than you look into just scratching the surface, you understand that first of all, packages get lost. Packages are not routed to the right places. Packages are missing. In food safety, one simple example, if you go to a restaurant and you will ask the shift manager, where did the lemon came from, he will need probably half an hour just to get to contacting someone to say where the lemon, and the real implication of food safety is people are dying.
Yes, and honestly, unfortunately, we've had no choice but to just trust what's been given to us instead of having a way to verify and confirm it's actually coming from where they state it's coming from. Outside of the food industry, me and Kat actually had a talk last week with one of our viewers, and we were talking about how potentially blockchain could maybe play a role in gun control by maybe ensuring that a gun is only activated or taken by a particular individual and knowing where that goes. Do you see a role for that, maybe?
The one thing that I can see with the gun control is the provenance. Where did the armory was bought at, and when it can be utilized, when it's supposed to be used, and really the supply chain of where the armory and who authorized to use it. Once you have the gun at someone's hands, you really cannot control, and the blockchain will not remotely authorize you to use it, yes or no. But the records or the track records or the audit where things are started and where they are, this is where kind of blockchain might help.
Oh, definitely. Obviously, it can definitely help, I think, in that industry. Like you said, it won't stop the use of guns, but it can at least monitor the trafficking of it, or where it started from, which, Kat, I think you also agree would go a long way, at least in deterring some of the things that we've seen happen.
I want everything to get where they say it's going.
Exactly. That's like we'll take baby steps and take the small victories.
Let's see what works before we go all the way.
Well, I'm particularly inspired by blockchain. Where I'm hopeful for is how it can help with medical records. According to a 2016, I believe, NPR article, 250 Americans die each year just by medical errors alone.
Right. And again, this is a perfect use case, because think about the hospital, the patient, the clinics, the pharmacies. There is no trust between any of them, right?
No.
And there is a silo. Every hospital keeps his own medical records. It does not share with anyone else, the RX and the patient. So once you apply the proper blockchain, and again, blockchain is you have to understand blockchain. There are two types of blockchain. There is the Bitcoin blockchain, which is the public, and there is the enterprise or the private. So not everyone can throw, okay, let's do the blockchain card, and it will be solved everything.
It doesn't apply everywhere.
It definitely does not apply everywhere. As a matter of fact, 7 to 8 projects that are being developed by blockchain shouldn't even be on blockchain.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So going back to medical records, so once you apply the proper security, the proper permission, the proper authorization, who has access to medical records, because medical records is private. You're talking about private aspect, you're talking about security, you don't want any breach. So once you could build kind of a network that you authorize whoever you want, only whoever you agree to access your medical records, then it's fine. Then you can, when you travel abroad, when you travel whatever, then you can just, in a click of the button, you can download the medical records into your mobile phone or desk or your mobile laptop, and then you can get the best treatment wherever you are. But more certainly, I definitely see that blockchain is a good use case for medical records and healthcare.
You mentioned 7 to 8 companies or businesses that utilize blockchain that maybe shouldn't. What companies or what businesses are those?
Well, I mentioned that 7 to 8 projects that I see or hear that utilize or applied blockchain in my view, of course, my personal view, it's a waste. Because at the end of the day, if you look at the project and you try to change blockchain with a regular database, and you can still do whatever you do with a database, keep the old working technology as it is. And this is what I bring to the table. You know, people, when I build trust, we talk about a lot of trust with blockchain. Trust is number one thing that you have to demonstrate, and not just to demonstrate, but to execute. When you tell to a customer, say, hey, I want to apply a blockchain project. Okay, and say, why do you want a blockchain? Just because it's fancy, just because it's sexy, just because everybody's talking about it?
Is blockchain sexy?
Is blockchain sexy?
Is it too sexy for your computer?
Explain to me, convince me why do you need blockchain. So he tells me, okay, what he needs to be, where he wants to go with it, where he wants to with the project. And I run it through the qualification, first qualification. Then I bring it to my other two partners. And only after that, I bring it to my partner, Multichain, which is an enterprise blockchain based in Israel. And then we do a brainstorming and say, okay, is this the right use case? Yes or no? And again, not every time someone asks, hey, let's do blockchain, let's do it. One of the recent projects that I'm very thrilled to be involved with is actually something that's related to artists and copyright.
What is that exactly?
So right now, when you're an artist, a singer, or writing, or guitar player, for example, okay, you want to protect your IP, you want to protect your rights. YouTube just takes everything out of you. You cannot make a living.
Yeah.
And my partner,
YouTube, you could download straight from it and get a free version of any song.
Yeah.
And how do you make a living? So actually, my partner, he's an ex-guitar player, and he not because of this, but he's saying this is a pain point for him. So right now, there is an ongoing discussion with a company that wanted to apply blockchain for protecting the copyrights. So with the right mechanism, that not everyone who can see the song or the play or whatever will be able just to copy it, download, and without paying royalties to the artist. So this is again a good example of where blockchain can help, not just to make money and to bring make someone rich, but to really help to as a serious issue in our society.
No, piracy obviously has been a big deal. As somebody who's working in video production and the content creation industry, we know how that can affect you. You put hard work in, you deserve to be rewarded for it. So.
Absolutely.
So for someone like me, I know virtually nothing about blockchain technology. I know it is sometimes involved in cryptocurrencies. That's about all I know. So for people like me and some people in our chat who aren't quite sure exactly what blockchain is, could you explain a little bit about exactly what it is for us?
Sure.
Is that possible?
Yeah, actually it is very possible. Let's say, in a very simple words, blockchain is another form of database. And what is a database? Is a collection of records, collection of data. When you go to your bank account, is basically a collection of data.
Right.
Every company stores millions and millions of data records, right? So what blockchain does is keep every data in its own separate block, and they are chained together.
Okay.
Number one. Number two, it brings transparency in a way that, let's say the three of us, we want to run our privacy, digital privacy on the blockchain, okay? And we are the three parties, and we do not trust each other. So we form a chain, okay? We form a network. Each of us has a node. A node is where the blockchain runs on, and everyone has a visibility to some extent on what's going on. So now it's not that we're going to do business, but you only have visibility to what's going on, or you two want to do something and I will not see what is going on. This is where we bring trust to the three of us that we are trustless to begin with.
Okay.
Another thing that is very important attribute and characteristic of blockchain is we're taking the central authority. In a regular database, there is one single authority that allows or denied or give permission to who's doing what. Okay? In a blockchain, there is no single authority. There is the permission of the blockchain, and there is what it's called consensus, which I don't want to go into too much technology, that allows to run without really human touch, the chain between us. So in essence, it's a bring trust to a trustless, is taking away the single authority, and it's transparent again to some extent. For example, in the Bitcoin, everybody knows who is. Everybody sees the transaction,
right,
but nobody knows. But
yes.
Nobody knows who does it because it's hiding behind a string of
yes.
Exactly
Okay.
a string of characters.
That makes sense.
No, definitely. So obviously, like the blockchain, pretty much the ledgers confirm what each one pretty much has the same record. And once it makes that confirmation, then they lock it in unison. That's
Correct.
how they confirm.
Correct. This is what we call proof of work.
Proof of work.
Right. But this is in a public blockchain. In an enterprise blockchain, there are different consensus mechanism, which is called sometimes proof of stake.
Yes, from what I hear, Ethereum is actually going towards proof of stake, which is causing a little bit of controversy. Some people like the proof of work concept similar to blockchain and Litecoin, but there's a proof of stake concept that Ethereum is looking to adopt. How do you feel about that?
Correct. Proof of stake, as opposed to proof of work, is much simple, much fast, and this is why it enhances the performance and the speed of the network, and this is why people like it. Proof of work, because Bitcoin grew to be that big and massive and so popular, the performance, or it means, in other words, how long it takes you to do one transaction.
The energy, the mining, all of that is very taxing, obviously.
Correct. So, for example, it will take today on average 15 minutes just to do one transaction, and sometimes they will tell you, hey, we cannot do the transaction. So proof of stake and other blockchain flavors enhance the speed, and this is where you really see where the adoption of the industry goes to, because you need, in order to make the blockchain technology to the masses and to make it more adaptive and more ubiquitous in the everyday life, you need to have, the technology has to keep up with the demand. And every time, think about you when you go to Starbucks and you buy a coffee and you need to wait 15 minutes to the transaction to be authorized.
I think Kat would definitely know about that more than I would.
I would. It would make me cry.
Nobody knows more about Starbucks than Kat.
I did work there for a couple of years. That's the only reason.
Yes.
And as a matter of fact, Ethereum is one of my favorite technologies, and it's really the difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum. Of course, there is many, but one of the main things that I like about Ethereum is that you really can build a product on top of it.
No, definitely, it's an excellent platform for building things. I'm excited about smart contracts. I think that something like that obviously can be used like right now and go along with just cutting out middlemen.
Correct.
Anything that pretty much blockchain, do you feel like it's pretty much making intermediaries almost obsolete?
In a way, absolutely. Absolutely. Lawyers, for example, and many intermediaries will have to rethink what do they want to do next.
No, definitely. That's definitely the case. We see it happening, and it's only going to continue to expand in 2018 and going beyond that. But you mentioned a key aspect of blockchain and what makes it, so trustworthy and something that people are inspired and believe in. It's the fact that it's decentralized. Everyone has a stake in it. Now, there's a currency out there. I know that cryptocurrency isn't necessarily your main objective. You're looking to use the technology to help people. But with something like Ripple, for instance, that it's centralized, it goes away from the core value of what the whole cryptocurrency is supposed to be about. What do you think about that?
Actually, Ripple is close to my heart because I've been working on a project with my partner, Dr. Raul Hinojosa, about transnational project which helps the Hispanic people and the Hispanic resident in the US to remit money to Mexico and other Latin Americas.
Oh, wow.
This is, again, we talked about what project do I take or how do I advise. And we talked about before that chemistry and something that's close to my heart, something that is socially good. And right now, when when you want to send money from US to Mexico, you have to pay between $10 to $15, where Ripple and other technologies can really reduce the fee, the middleman. And this is where you help the low-income families, the low-income, the hard worker that work and make a living off minimum wage to support their family abroad.
Yes.
So Ripple, in that sense, is good. Ripple, it is centralized, but it's actually a platform where over 100 banks participate and help to do and to interact with each other.
Okay. So it's not centralized, and it's not centralized to the point that you're concerned about it, like just destroying, I guess, the core value, not destroying, but not being representative of what crypto is supposed to be about.
Correct, correct. And again, there is a cryptocurrency called Ripple that is run, that's part of the network or part of the platform, part of the Ripple platform. But the core essence of Ripple is really good, and the what it's trying to do and how it enhance millions of people, that's a good thing.
Okay. Is there a cryptocurrency that you're particularly excited about, or that you do like and think that it has maybe a potential future? Obviously, you're not a financial advisor, none of us are, but personally, what do you feel about?
Yeah, huge disclaimer, I never advise, I never advise anyone. Any risk that I'm taking, it's my own risk. And all I can say is I like Ethereum and Ripple.
You like Ethereum and Ripple?
I like what they bring. Again, Ripple, because it brings down the fees to where someone wants to send money from one place to another cross border, and Ethereum because it enhances and it can facilitate two people to do business. That's the only reason. And about investment and about how to make money, not me to say.
Understood. So what is your project that you are working on personally? What is that about?
So one project, as I mentioned, is I'm working with Dr. Raul Hinojosa, a professor in UCLA, and he's a world expert in remittance. And this is about how to help the Mexico, either who migrated from Mexico to US or they born and they support their family.
Okay.
Back it is close to $40 billion market.
Wow.
And we actually building a financial instrument that helps them to not just to be digital, but also to make the sending money more cost effective and more cheaper.
Wow.
This is one project. Another project that I'm looking at is again digital privacy and digital rights. But actually, the first project that I was involved in that was really something that started the whole blockchain journey was back in 2017 when I was in Israel. I met two exceptional, talented friends, now partners, Robert Jacobson and Karti Kumar. And they have an idea. They studied a summer semester in the International Space University. And they married between satellite data, geospatial, and blockchain. And they asked me to give them a couple of ideas or advise them about blockchain. And the idea is in the third world, the countries are actually stealing land from the indigenous people.
Wow.
One day a farmer has, square kilometer, and that's where he lives all his life. and one day he wake up and the government just took his land.
Wow, that's to say
So
unfortunate.
sad.
Yeah, so sad.
So
it's
this
not
is
right.
happening in Latin America, Southeast Asia, everywhere. And their idea was a merit idea, and again, and we talked about what project really attract and entice and make me wanted to work on. So the marriage between geospatial data, where the farmer can mark his parcel, his land, with a coordinate, with the geospatial data, and it's going to upload it directly on the blockchain.
Oh, wow.
Where the government cannot touch, because once it's on a blockchain,
It's there forever.
It's exactly, unless you wipe the data.
Wow.
And you can't unless you wipe every computer.
Exactly. So that was the idea, and that's what led me to speak, invited to the UN in Rome, and to give him a lecture one day about blockchain and how we can utilize the technology.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, this is something that I'm very proud. And again,
That's exciting.
it
Maybe
is
we will
not
speak at UN.
yet in production, but it is in the works. All I can say.
Would you have to go back to the UN at all and give them an update on?
No, all I can say that it's been ongoing discussion.
It's been ongoing
Very
discussion.
cool.
Wow. Well, we're definitely going to need you to come back to the show.
And give us an update.
Once you're able to say a little bit more, let us
Looking
know
forward.
first.
Thank you so
Definitely.
much.
But Gil, it's been great to have you. Where could people find more information about you and your company?
Just go to UpToro.com.
UpToro.com.
That's it.
Great.
Simple. Keep it simple.
Keep it simple. Simple is best. Well, Gil, thank you again for joining us. It's been great to have you, and we appreciate what you're doing, especially because you're helping people. And I think that's
Beautiful
awesome.
thing.
Thank you so
Beautiful
much.
thing.
Thank you.
Guys, that was Gil from UpToro, and we are The Real Deal with Kat and Kevin, and we'll be back right after this. Stay tuned.
Hey everyone, we are back. We have one more question for Gil given to us in the chat by Overdrive7538. We just wanted to bring him back real quick to answer that question before we move on to any of our following segments. So, serious question in regards to the project mentioned, would there be a potential collapse in exchange services like Western Union, etc., and in that respect cause a financial loss for the host country's immigrants that are sending their money from?
Right. Thank you for having me back. So the answer is no, there will be no collapse, and the services will coexist next to each other. Number one. Number two, there will be no financial loss for the hosted countries, again, because the more money that we keep in the people in the pocket, they will utilize it to stimulate the economy, to buy goods and everything. So instead of spending $40 and to give to the mediary or to the company that takes the money today, they will left with another $30 in their pocket.
Right.
They will pay $10 to the service or even $5. This is where we aim to, even probably low. And they will have more money to spend on clothes to their kids, education, food, and so on and so forth. So I don't see a collapse. I see only good things happen when you bring down the fees and you leave and you keep more money for the consumer.
I can see that. You keep more money in your pocket instead of handing it over for.
That's awesome.
And you
Definitely.
can consume in different ways.
Because for so long it's been a middleman that's been taking, little bits and pieces, little dollars and coins here, and it adds up. And it's
Little
about time that
fees.
the people definitely have that.
I mean, heck, banks made how many billions of dollars in profit on overdrafts?
Oh my goodness, ridiculous.
Absolutely. And listen, the byproduct is that the people the recipient, the low income, the below low income that lives in the recipient countries will have more money they will get more money from the sender, so they can give better education to their family. As a matter of fact, education is the number one reason where people are sending money overseas.
Yes, because I know in a lot of countries outside the United States, education is not guaranteed, and it's considered a right still, not a privilege, or not necessarily. It's a privilege, not a right, and people have to pay out of pocket for every level of education.
Absolutely.
No, it's great. And even just the timing of it, to send money, for instance, you send money to another country, it can take upwards of a week or even more.
Yeah.
Now you can get it, not instantly, but within
that
minutes
day.
and within that day. Things like that make a big difference.
Not only, well, you touch upon very, very important factor is the speed of money. How fast the money transfer from where you at to the family or to the recipient. But another factor is when do you do it? Let's say that in a traditional economy, you have to wait to the store to open at 9 o'clock, okay? And then you either need to take a day off or you have to lose hourly work, and then you stand in line and everything. With the mobile revolution, where we put everything in the mobile, in your fingertips, you can send money anywhere, everywhere, anytime. So when your mother in Mexico City, needs an emergency money because her toothache or for any unexpected expense, you don't need to wait for the next day. You just pull your mobile phone, you download, or if you have already my app, and you send money right away. So you enhance the quality of life in so many aspects that it is just why we didn't do it before. Right?
Why would you do it any other way?
Definitely. I mean, this seems like the logical step to take. A lot of people have been fearful about maybe blockchain being, being pushed back, because obviously there are a lot of people who have stand to gain from the current system as it's been and who may lose out.
Again, I would like to make a difference between the blockchain as a technology and the Bitcoin cryptocurrency, because sometimes people confuse between the two things. I mentioned to you about the Uber driver.
Yes.
The Bitcoin. So the blockchain, I think fear is always because lack of knowledge, mistrust, people don't like changes.
Yeah.
And people don't know what it is, so the immediate reaction is fear. And this is what the old economy or the big corporates, the fear of losing their lunch. You know what? They should fear, because they should provide better services, cheaper services, and accessibility to everybody. This way, everybody can benefit.
This is a great way to hold them accountable.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well,
so Michael in the other room is asking about possible job loss because of loss of intermediaries who...
Well, you know what? Yesterday at the meetup, there are many folks and many engineers and many people who can gain and can gain benefit from from a new technology. They can study from it. Look, I'm over 50 years old, and I had to sometimes, I had want to reinvent myself, to learn a new stuff. Blockchain was not in the market, or was not a known technology when I went to college back in 1993. And here I am sitting in your marvelous show. So, you know, it's not too late. And if you don't keep up with what's going out there, it's like I'm an avid cyclist. You have to keep pedaling in order to stay alive.
You have to keep pedaling. That's actually really
and it's never too late. And I actually encourage everybody not to be fear of new technology. And fear actually is not in my vocabulary.
I like that. I like that, Gil.
Well, damn.
Well, Gil, I have one more question for you before we let you go. We have to hold you down one more minute.
We're keeping you forever.
Yeah. The question I have, so when do you see it being, like blockchain actually being put into use on a wide scale where people are familiar with it and know? When do you see the first major industry disruptor? Because I read an article, for instance, on Wall Street Journal about how Uber is fearful now about potentially losing its hold on the ride-sharing market, because there's a company that's actually creating a decentralized ride-sharing that allows you to connect directly with the driver instead of having Uber collect those fees.
Well, again, I like that every company fear of losing business, because it just will make them to execute better and to be smarter. I don't want to comment on a specific use case on the article or about Uber, Wall Street Journal. Number one, I didn't read about it at all, so I tend not to comment on things that I'm not familiar with.
Yes.
And number two, I think there is excessive use of the word disruption. Mm-hmm. Like everybody, like the Uber driver talking about Bitcoin, everybody talking about disruption. So you have to be very careful, to be knowledgeable about what you're saying. I think
we have a question from Calamity Jane 6 asking about if there's, I'm sorry. So also a question, if there's time with this, Expedite Services, how will you stop the black market from using this great service? I almost feel like...
It's a good question. Actually, I like it. And I'm trying to read behind the lines and what does it mean, black market. And black market is people that unauthorized to use it. So in a financial market, you cannot do a financial transaction, at least not in my project, not at least in service that I'm encountered for, unless you fully approved by the regulations. And regulation is not a bad word. You don't need to say, hey, government is bad just because it enforces you. No, you have to have rules, you have to have certain structure and methods. You just need to follow the rules and make sense. And that's it. You know, I don't want, excuse me for my French, garbage in.
Yes, I agree. No, but I don't.
Okay, so, you know, as soon as you apply the proper protection and the proper rules, then please, I welcome you to utilize my service. So the short answer is we follow a very rigorous and strict onboarding process to bring people into the service. And there are two kinds of, let's say, profile. You know, one with the SSN or Social Security, and let's say immigrant that does not have Social Security. And how do you bring those to how do you make those? Yes. You know, the 60 million immigrants that live in the US, and how do you bring them into the digital world? I think this is more fundamental question, whether or not, you know, it is what platform it runs. And there are methods and system in place to bring them and to help them to participate in the digital, in the economy, and by merging with the blockchain technology where you lower the fees, then you benefit them from both sides. And this is how you make them to feel, hey, you're part of the economy, you're part of the society. We don't treat you as a second citizen.
Everyone's inclusive.
Exactly.
Yes.
A financial inclusion, society inclusive. Because you know what? I will not do a project if it's going to benefit only for 10 people. It's not me. Go to the next door.
No, and honestly, that's the one thing I would say about this entire crypto and blockchain world, is that it seems like a lot of people are motivated and pushed to help everybody. it's not like a singular focus. It's the focus is everyone, and
Yeah.
what can we do to help the world, help people in this country, which is awesome.
Yes, absolutely. I see.
More questions. We go.
Is there a way to self-police to crypto blockchain doesn't get
Regulated, or is that inevitable?
That's
I don't know if I would trust people to self-police blockchain.
Well, look, first of all, blockchain is not something that you can go to Walmart and buy off the shelf, number one.
Thank God.
Yes. Number two, I think this question hinted another bigger question: how much does it cost to implement a blockchain? And we talked about adoption, and we talked about disruptive, and we talked about why big companies fear about blockchain, and to develop, to implement, and to maintain blockchain as it is right now, because it's the new technology. It's not something cheap. It's not something that you can do at the GFI. So you need to have experts. You need to have people who know what they do, and you need to, every organization need to impose its own compliance and rules in order to adapt it. And this is where it took me back to, what are the two types of blockchain? Is it the enterprise, which is a private,
Yes.
and the public, which is something like Bitcoin. If you bring something to your house, you want to make sure that he is welcome to your house, right?
Exactly, yeah.
If you want to participate if you want to implement a blockchain to the indigenous people, and you're dealing with, NGO, world credited organization, trust me, they do due diligence on me, like I do due diligence on them.
Yes.
So I don't see.
Any way to really police or
No.
You think that government needs to play a role in regulation? Government needs to play a role in crypto and blockchain and how it's utilized.
I think there is a way. There is room. Okay, to put some sort of, I would say, process and protection around cryptocurrency. About blockchain, no, because blockchain is a technology. You cannot regulate and say, okay, how many nodes ever? It's not going to work.
Right.
It's like how many. It's like the government will tell me how many websites to run. It's not going to happen.
Definitely understood.
Black market is there.
Yeah, black market is terrorism, drugs, crime. Governments say this is what blockchain and crypto are
what
being used
I'm
for.
thinking, when blockchain and cryptocurrencies first started making headlines, the immediate fear went to the dark internet. It went to Tors and being able to purchase things off Silk Road and things like that, which was still the minority of what was happening at the time, but it became the fear factor of surrounding the technology.
The leading narrative, to fear people.
The fearmonger narrative.
Yeah.
It is a true statement, because in the early days of Bitcoin, when nobody knew too much about it, then,
it was easier to sneak around and do whatever you wanted with it.
Exactly. And because the nature of the protocol, the nature of cryptocurrency allows you to hide behind walls. But again, we talked about bringing trust to a trustless environment. So we want to, in my project or in my customer, we want to help, and I'm not hiding.
Right.
We want to bring the technology to make good. So.
Yes, you're at the forefront of it.
So what I'm getting from all of this is the technology itself, you can't really direct it for good or bad outside of your own control. It's up to the people utilizing it to decide whether or not it's going to be used for good or bad.
Exactly, Kat. We touched on this about how
almost like the dollar. Like
yes.
The mob's still using the dollar, even though there's regulations on it.
Exactly.
It's not stopping dollars from being produced.
Yep. It's the people.
It's the people that are misusing the resource, not the resource misusing itself.
So true. I always saying that before computers talk to each other, people speak to each other. And this is what, we talked about the qualification. I need the chemistry. I need to trust the people that I do, first of all, friends, of course, but people who do business, because without trust, there's
nothing. That's essential. Well, Gil, thank you very much again for
Thank you so
joining
much
us.
for
I told you
staying
one more
overtime as
minute,
well.
and I ended up keeping you for 10 minutes. If you
We
don't
filled
leave
up our
soon,
whole
we're gonna
show.
get like
Yeah,
a ton
I
of
know,
questions.
and I will get in trouble.
Yeah, and you'll get in
No.
trouble. We don't want that, but we're definitely gonna have you on again, and
Okay. Oh, yeah, we
we'll
have
love to
to.
have you on. Even if you Skype in, that'd be great too as well.
Absolutely, always pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Gil,
Thank you
ladies
so
and
much.
gentlemen, from
Appreciate it.
UpToro.
Give him some love in the chat.
Yeah.